Well, good morning to everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. We really appreciate your time and the energy, and definitely being a part of our webinar series from TAZ Networks. We're doing this once a month. And this month we're doing something a little different so that we can interview some other folks. We're going to interview someone that does managed print services. So that's the title of our webinar this month is Can Managed Print Services Help Your Company? And we hope to save you some big money in the process of doing that. I appreciate you joining today and taking the time out of your schedule. My name is Tavis Patterson. I'm the president of TAZ Networks and started TAZ Networks back in 2003, as most folks do, with a little room in the basement. Started TAZ Networks, and we've kind of grown ever since, and I appreciate that. I have a network engineer background, and for those of you that didn't know previously, I did work at CompuWare as a network engineer, did some consulting for various Big Three and other organizations, but always wanted to start my own business, and so here we are today, and TAZ Networks mainly does IT infrastructure, managed IT for folks in the small and medium-sized business categories. We're going to open up the phone lines here, and so I ask that you just mute your phone or your microphone on your computer if you haven't done that already. Because we're going to have Steve Meyer join us today, and he's the Document Solutions Manager from Smart Office Systems to talk about managed print services. We don't do it ourselves here at TAZ Networks, but we've partnered up with Steve and his company to make sure that we provide a great solution, really an all-encompassing solution for our clients and for others that are interested in managed print services. It's a growing and expanding industry, and we thought that everyone would be interested in that. So, Steve, are you on the line?
Hello, Tavis.
All right, great. So, Steve, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, we're Smart Office Systems, and we're a Michigan-based printing equipment and document solutions provider. And we're offering all the tools and services that meet your business printing needs. And we've been partnering with the Michigan businesses since 2014 and looking at their cost of ownership and spending for the equipment. And we strive also to provide the best in quality and services. So that's one of our key attributes. And what makes us different, I thought I wanted to bring out, and what we call our customer investment strategy. So you'll get to know that a little bit more as we go through the presentation, how we approach that, and then the cost for hardware, software, services, and consumables, how we help you as a customer to manage that, what they call tip spending, the spending that sometimes is very.
Okay, great. Thanks, Steve, and definitely there's a lot of synergies in service and helping folks, and this is a growing area. So, Steve, I'm going to ask you here kind of to help us summarize. What do you see? What are some of the needs that some clients and prospects that you come up against? What are they requiring from the print industry?
As you can see, right here is accumulation of 8 different things that are very important to our customers and that constantly come up in our conversations. So number one, obviously, is reducing the print costs. So how can we help them to reduce these costs and the administrative resources that are part of that printing and document control part of their business? And then also, as managing the current printing fleet, sometimes there's a lot of work that goes into managing capital investments, reducing their IT workloads. So how can we help them to manage what they have currently and really streamline their management of that system? Also, they ask us to right size the print fleet. So what that means is we want to take a close look at how they're printing, what the equipment is that they're using, so that's the total environment, maybe consolidating some of the equipment into lower cost printing resources. So that's some of the things that we do, and as I mentioned, we'll go through that a little bit later. Another thing that the customer is always looking forward to is helping to reduce their carbon footprint. And we do this through both toner recycling and efficient equipment, but we put together a plan and a strategy to help the customers to achieve their goals. One other item is helping the customers to meet their security requirements. This actually is something that's very important. As all of us know today, running a business, we want to make sure that we're managing important documentation, something that's confidential. So we help the customer to set that up as well, to make sure that their information is locked down and secure. But also I want to point out what this also turns out to be somewhat of a user-friendly process, because when we say, oh, we're going to work with you on security, the users and the people that are actually using the equipment, sometimes they think, well, now it adds a step or it's something extra for me to do, and it doesn't sound like a good idea to them. But really how it works out is there's no more stacks of copier papers or papers that are sitting around. People can go right up to the equipment and they can log in, and then they can print out all of their documentation at once. So there's not a big mess at the copier, if anyone recalls those days. Also, what we work to do is improve the productivity of the people. So let's say the printer goes down and there's a mission critical document that needs to be printed out and copied for one of your customers. Then we want to make sure that this uptime and the fleet is performing at its highest level. So we work with the customers on that to make sure that the right equipment is used for the right environment. Also, customers want to work on their workflows. So business process solutions that integrate IT, document, and business operations. What this means is digital transformation somewhat. We want to make sure that all of these processes work together, that IT is functioning at a high level, and also there's document controls and management processes in the business that help meet the needs of that customer. So if we have, say, documents that we want to store and retrieve easily, then that's the process that we would work with the customer. There's different softwares and options for that. And then also the customer is looking to support their mobile and virtual workers. So sometimes if you have workers off-site, they want to print from anywhere. So you print, let's say you print in Detroit and you want to go to Troy and then get the documents there in your other office, then that's what we also set up to help the customers take advantage of some of the new technology that's out there for us.
Great, sounds good. So we've got some others joining us. Just a reminder, if you can mute your phones, appreciate it. We've got the lines wide open today because we're interviewing Steve from Smart Office Solutions, so appreciate that. So Steve, if I could just ask you, do you think that there's maybe on all these 8 items, do you usually start with 2 or 3 items and then you see that your clients maybe need help with all 8?
Yes, that's actually one of the steps in the process as we go through. We first take a look at the current printing environment, and then we also work with the customers to identify what exactly they need. I mean, maybe some of these things they already have a good handle on, and maybe they're using some software, but we could go through and help them to maybe improve what software they're using or processes or warehousing or equipment. As we've mentioned, the fleet management. So we might manage their fleet. They might have several different suppliers for their equipment and supplies, and through those things, then we actually continue to optimize with the customer.
Okay, great. Good to hear. So, we see the value, we do managed IT. A lot of folks see the value of that in understanding, a set price, a set value to have everything taken care of. So what kind of value does managed print bring to the table?
Well, actually, if you're talking about managed IT, this fits right into that fold, because many companies want to have this all put together into a solid system, one that manages all of the elements. As you notice, there's 6 different enhancements that NPS brings on this slide. But our first and number one goal is at the top. That's a positive client experience. We want to make sure that we've been listening to our customers, and we want to make sure that the customer experience is a positive one. So if we take a look at these 6 enhancements, there's, as we mentioned, reduction in costs. We help them to print smarter. If it's as simple as 75% printing in color and 25% monochrome, then that's an easy printing policy that we can help the customers deploy. Improve productivity, as we mentioned, of the staff. That's what we want to make sure, that there's plenty of uptime, that there's no broken down equipment, people aren't waiting for parts and things like that. The document security, the improvement on the environmental portion, and streamlining the business processes internally, and enhancing the end user experience. So we kind of touched on those in the previous slide, but what this slide is trying to say is that most of these, if you're a business owner or you're running a business, a lot of these 6 items happen in the background. And are you really sure that these are highly efficient and being optimized for cost reduction at all times? Sometimes if we're managing them internally in our own business, we don't really have a good grasp on those items. And then if we don't assign someone to this, even if we ask IT to help out, IT is very busy. So some of these things here, this is what MPS is trying to do. We're trying to shed a light on some of these background processes and background items that can help the business run more efficiently and effectively. So how we do that, then there are 3 other boxes here in the process. So the end result, as I mentioned, was positive client experience, but proactive multi-vendor support is one thing that really helps out the business and the end users and the IT group and everyone. Also global service delivery. So as I mentioned, everything in one package. There's one person to go to, one company to deal with, somebody that's looking out for your best interest. Those are the type of things that we're trying to do. And then, as we talked about earlier, the ongoing optimization. So as we are trying to impress upon everyone, we're a partner. We're in business, and we're happy when our customers are in business and happy. So we're always looking to help them improve and to make it a mutually beneficial arrangement.
Yeah, those are great items, Dave. I appreciate it. And I think we get a lot of questions from the IT standpoint, on reducing costs, printing smarter. We see a lot of those inefficiencies on the print side, but also in document security. We hear a lot of things right now about intellectual property and keeping that private. So I really like that fact of enhancing document security, because as we've mentioned before, from our standpoint, security is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. From our standpoint, we have become a security company, and that's all the more important to keep in mind for all of our clients. So I appreciate all that. So when it comes to some of these things that you need to do, how do you start, and then what does that involve in the managed print process? How do you accomplish those things?
Well, we boil it down to 4 steps. So as we mentioned before, we're looking to assess the environment. So we go in to the customer, we work with them on their schedule to set up a printing assessment and an assessment of how they manage their documentation, security, all of this fact-based audit information is then compiled, and we develop a total cost of ownership with the customer, which means should they purchase equipment, should they lease it, what does it cost currently for upkeep for the maybe aging printer fleet. We take a look at that, and then we take a look at consumables, and we put together a complete vision for the customer to help them to understand what equipment they have and how much it really takes to manage the system. The second thing then is we sit down after we've had that conversation with them. We design and suggest this print infrastructure, and it's all based on the customer's needs. So we're talking about managing their existing fleet. Maybe they have HPs, Kyocera's, there's all kinds of different printer fleets that you have out there, and that means different people to call, different 800 numbers, different supplies, and some of that can make a very simple process very complex. So we recommend some optimization of that print environment. And then we get an agreement with the customer, and then we launch. So we launch an implementation phase, and we agree to the design. We support the staff throughout this transition. We help the users to adapt to the new technology that we might be introducing, and really try to streamline and make this process very smooth to launch the design that we've put together. And then from there, we manage the process. So as we mentioned, we try to take some of the heat off of the IT group. We help who knows, if it's a small business, it might even be the owner that's having to deal with some of these things. So the incident management and supplies replenishment that sometimes people really hate about the business, we help manage that, make it streamlined, make it something that is transparent. They can't even see or hear or understand what's going on, but they know that they're getting the best deal, because part of that management is reporting and monitoring the results to the customer to show them exactly what their spend is and how the process is working.
Yeah, those are great. Excuse me. Those are great points. So, really, you kind of just allow the folks in the business to just do their work, and then you handle everything, the integration with the IT, the notifications, the replenishment of supplies, making sure that everything's up to date from the printing standpoint. Is that the way I understand it?
Exactly. That's right. We're the project managers, and then we report back to the customer, as I mentioned, to show them exactly how their process is running, and try to work with them on optimization, continuing in an ongoing basis.
Great. Okay. Appreciate that. So that makes sense. So let's just kind of boil it down then. I think we've gotten some good things just to kind of understand. But what do you have here that we can really take away, and some of the solutions you have?
Well, I think this slide somewhat sums it all up. I think it's pretty simple, as it says here, simplified. So that's one thing that everyone wants and desires, and sometimes it's too good to be true, but in this case we do simplify things. So as we mentioned, if there's multi-vendors, multi-devices, if the customer doesn't want to manage their assets, and we help them to manage them, We help to retire old equipment, and we pretty much manage that process for them that many of the departments do not want to deal with. And then automated, so we're talking about back office automation, everything that's going on in that back office that people have to stop and deal with, maybe purchasing consumables or toner or things like that, paper on an ongoing basis. Sometimes it's an emergency, and we want to stop emergencies and help the customer to reduce those. By doing that, we're proactive. So the break fix and the services monitoring, we're seeing it as soon as the user sees it. So as soon as there's any kind of an issue with the equipment, we're proactive, heads up to the customer, and we're taking action right away to increase that uptime as we talked about. And also a single point of contact. Everyone just likes one phone number to call. Get a good relationship with someone that takes care of you. The customers really appreciate that, to know that they can always call this person and rely on them to take care of their issue for them. Actionable reporting. So actionable means we can take action. And when you see trends or see some cost increases, then we can help take that reporting, sit down with the customer and show them, hey, here's a way that you can reduce your costs or streamline things or help out your team members. And then consolidated invoices and billing, that's something too that everyone really appreciates. When you can get one payment, it's something that you can understand what the cost was, and then it's very consistent. The variation in billing is something very hard to deal with, especially in the accounting world. We want to try and budget our funds well, and when we have these excess costs, it's something it's tough to deal with when you get into the third and fourth quarters for everyone. So here's the base: change management. We set a good foundation of any kind of change. We're managing the change. We're helping, whether it's even upgrade or downgrade of equipment, and how big your system is, your network is. We help manage that change. And then the solutions that we provide are all the solutions that businesses are looking for. That's the mobile printing, document scanning and faxing, equipment that's simple and easy to use, cost controls with security, and then the document management. So trying to reduce maybe having files and files of documents is something that everyone wants to accomplish in their business, I know.
Yeah, great. So let me just kind of go through this maybe from our client standpoint, those folks that are on the phone that are our clients. Would it be possible, looking at this, that maybe a printer would fire off a ticket to TAZ Networks and says low, either the printer's not working right, or there's low toner, or a fuser needs to be replaced. We receive the ticket, we dispatch it to you, and you go take care of it, and our client wouldn't even know anything.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I
and
think
most of the time too, when we're monitoring, if you want to talk about toner and supplies, we're already seeing when you get an alert, or we get an alert, it's probably means that you have 20% life left or something like that, so that before you even notice that you're going to be down, you have the part already.
Great. Yeah, that sounds great. And that's really what, from the IT standpoint, we try to do as well. But, when it comes to printing, for most people, that's just as vital to get those contracts or whatever it is. We still largely live in a paper-based world as we try to move away from that. So excellent points. Just a reminder, folks, if you do want to I failed to introduce Heather. Heather Toll is on the line as well and monitoring messages in the background. So thanks to Heather for setting everything up. But if you have a question, please put it in the message box as we continue to wrap up here. So, we hear a lot of things, Steve, about software as a service, hardware as a service. But now you're talking in managed print land about device and almost like printers as a service now. So can you explain that to us a little bit?
Yes, I can say the future is here. We noticed the turn and the need for this in the industry, and also the customers really, again, they like to have this option. So that we're talking scaling up and down, having a printer, one price for consumables and the printer and the software, everything all in one subscription price that is we're able to budget. So as we see here, there's consistency in this process that I've highlighted that a lot of the customers have been asking for. So we'll go through these 4 consistency points. We're talking fixed price regardless of print coverage, which is very, very unique. I think most customers will recognize that. So a lot of the sales for printing and copier machines based on how much coverage you're going to have, 5% of the page, 10% of the page. This coupled with cost per page, pricing, and then it really starts to get very complex and hard for the customer to actually know what they're going to pay. It becomes very hazy somewhat. And I think that this is going to really revolutionize somewhat this industry. So when we say that, that means no overage fees. So no variation in your monthly fees. We also would be providing the newest hardware, so you get the newest hardware. If you sign up for the device as a service process, we then would give you new hardware after 3 years. That's part of one of the contract agreements. And then, as I mentioned, a price per device. So, which means if your office, we put together a plan for your office and you need 3 copy machines for a very large office, and then you decide to move offices. We're very flexible in that regard. What if the new office you only need 2 copy machines because of the amount of people? Then we just take back the copy machine and you quit paying the one price per that device. So that's the type of thing that we're talking about. That makes it simple. So from the consistency standpoint, the simplicity comes in. So one contract for supply and device and service. Very simple, very easy to understand, very easy to compare costs and prices. This gives the customers peace of mind. As we said, total visibility of their production costs. So how much does it cost me to produce these documents? You'll always know that with this type of system and agreement. Predictability, so no more budget variances that people have to deal with. As I mentioned before, that's that tail spending that is always, sometimes it's not contracted, sometimes it's not controlled, but now this is helping to do that more and more. We're going to be looking at that in that back office. And then flexibility, so this contract that's customized with your needs to be able to scale up and scale down, and then cost controlling. So no shipping charges, reduction in inventories, all of the things that people are looking for in their business, we're trying to help to manage for them. So that's where this device as a service is heading.
Yeah, great point. So, Steve, let me get this straight on the device as a service. So you're paying one fee and you're getting the toner included, all the parts and the service, Does it include like paper and different things like that as well?
We do have agreements that do include the paper.
Okay, so we can kind of customize it to whatever needs for a client that we have.
Yes, yes.
All right, great. So definitely we like to kind of understand, some things that are out there, and I think you've got a couple examples plus here maybe what a sample agreement would look like, just so we get an idea of what's happening here. So could you kind of explain maybe what this agreement involved?
This involved a smaller business that needed some medium-sized production equipment. So we have here a black and white copier and printer. This is BizHub 308 from Konica Minolta. And then they also needed color with a little bit higher production rate. So that was the 45 prints per minute BizHub 458. And this, after the print assessment was done and all the project was put together with the customer, as we described earlier, it's a very detailed process we go through to help them optimize. And this was the resulting agreement that we came up with. So, for instance, this is our offering for the BizHub 308 copier printer. It came out to the flat monthly rate of $271.75, and that includes unlimited copies and prints. And then for the color machine was $536.25, and that's a flat rate. So as you look down at the term and payment schedule, it was a 48-month agreement, and flat rate payment amount was $808 a month for both of these pieces of equipment. And as I mentioned, unlimited black and white pages, unlimited color pages, so no overages, flat rate.
Great, that's good to know. I know we spend sometimes on our large HP, over that $271 a month just in a cartridge each month. So interesting to see. For this type of agreement, how big would you say this client was that needed these two BizHubs?
They were about 210 person staff.
Great. And so for 210, they had two BizHubs that was able to take care of them. So good. That gives us a little bit of idea.
This doesn't include. We also. They also had some desktops, and they had some other things that were legacy equipment that they kept around that we felt were still optimal, that were still needed for some different areas, or maybe the president of the company, that person needed one on his desk for security. But we put this together for them, and this would be able to manage all of their printing through both of these.
Okay, great. Good to know. So we always like to hear kind of stories. I think you've got a couple stories for us here of folks that you've worked with, and kind of give us an overview of what is needed. So why don't you explain case study number one here for us?
Okay, sure. This was with a company called Chassis Brakes International, located in Farmington Hills. And as you can see, the regional president is who we worked with, and he wanted to set up a new office. This was a new office in Farmington Hills for this company. And we went through and we took a look at what their printing environment previously was when they opened it. So they had several different MFPs and which multifunction printers, right, that were doing the bulk of the work, and they were not very efficient. The costs were very high. So we went through and we increased their IT productivity, as I mentioned, by the strategic deployment of OKI MFPs. So we retired some of their desktops and the costly multifunction printers. We also established this foundation of the optimization. So we took a look at how they were how they were locating their MFPs, where they had them in relationship to their employees, so that they were easy access for all the employees. And then we also brought their color printing in-house. They were building and making packets for customers as they went out on their sales calls, and they were doing all that printing outside. So we said that they could do this inside and do it themselves highly efficiently and also cost effectively. So the annual savings that they came up with from a year of monitoring was about $7,000 is what we saved them by bringing it in-house. Previously, as it points out, they were spending 42 cents per page printing it at the copy shop, and with the MFP that we put in their location, they do it with 6 cents per page. And last point is they gain this cost efficiencies through that deployment and right sizing the devices. So making sure that, and that's one of the things that we do, we want to make sure that they're not printing on a very high volume piece of equipment that's expensive to run, but printing very little. So their capital costs and equipment is very high, and all of the things that they don't want to do with their investments, and we help them to identify that. So they were very happy, and this was one of the ways that we can help to optimize the print fleet, and then also maybe bring in some of their outsourced copying printing.
Very good. Yeah, I think $7,000. That's nothing to sneeze at. So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at maybe case number 2. What did you find here? And maybe why don't you give maybe like the size of the company to how big the company is?
Well, I don't know if everyone recognizes Cumulus Broadcasting, but this company is a very large company in the U.S. It holds many radio stations and media stations, especially in Michigan. And this location in Ann Arbor, I think it had 210 people in the office total. I think that's what this one was. And we worked with the vice president and marketing manager to consolidate and to take a look at their printing environment. So what we identified, as it points out, is their color printing was, again, it was lopsided. So no policy in place. People were just, even if they want to hit black and white, or they want to print out in black and white, they were printing, but they had their printing system set up and their driver set up to print in color. And when you print in color, a black and white document, it still uses color toner. So that was one of the things that helped them take a big reduction in their printing costs, is by switching things over to make sure that when they want to print in black and white, that they're always printing in black and white. And then we also provided desktop print advice for non-critical printing to maximize the toner savings and to reduce the hardware investment. So plainly stated, what we also provide for some of our larger customers is we provide some of the desktop printers for the company as long as they will pay for just the toner. So that's something that we didn't even touch on in this review, but that's something too that we did with them. We gave them several desktops, and they didn't have to invest in that hardware. And then we retired 3 of their printers and replaced it with one high efficiency, low cost copier. So you're more MFPs, high costs every time they were printing, and we consolidated. And these were printers that were pretty close together too. So they really didn't need to have separate printers. And I think that's when you grow the business and you think you need another printer, you just buy one without even considering maybe a copier or a larger machine would be a better investment. So these are the type of things that we help them and then continue to help them with. So continuing to standardize the equipment, providing free support and training. These were some of the things that made this customer very happy. And then at the end of the day, in 2017 they reported back to us that there was overall savings in their print cost of $2,800. So that was another good win for the customer.
Great. Yeah, anywhere you can reduce those costs, definitely from an owner standpoint, I know I appreciate that. So excellent points that we appreciated there. And overall, Steve, really appreciated all the information. If you have a question, please put it in the message box now. Appreciate that. We'll answer that. Steve, just maybe one or two things for our folks on the line. What are the most important things that we should take away?
Well, I think that from the takeaway sheet was the most important things. We're trying to, as we've touched on a few times, we're just trying to be a partner. We recognize that running a business is hectic. Sometimes these costs, they can run over. We might not get the best deals if we don't negotiate or we work hard to try and do our research. If we don't have time to really do that, sometimes the customers and businesses need someone to have their back. So Managed Print Services does this. There are many companies that are offering managed print, and we recommend to everyone to take a close look at the MPS systems and what's out there today. Most companies, and including ours, that's what we're striving to do, is to simplify, automate, be proactive, be a customer partner. So that's what our advice is today.
Awesome. Yeah, appreciate the information, Steve. So if they wanted an assessment done, what's the next steps? What do they need to do?
Well, if they wanted to try and reach out to us, there's my email address. They can send me a direct email, and we can begin the process. And we can just schedule just a first meeting, and we could say hello and get a good idea. I could go into more detail on what the print assessment is and how it's done. And then this process, there's a little more detail than what we went through today, but if they wanted to get a hold of me, they just send an email to my email address there, steve@smartofficesystemssys.com.
Awesome. Very good. Well, thanks, Steve. I really appreciate the information. Valuable for us today. Folks, I'm not seeing any questions in the message queue right now. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Steve. We're happy to do that, or at TAZ Networks, you can reach out to your respective account manager as well, and we'll be able to definitely get in contact with Steve. But we'll be working more closely together and definitely want to provide an all-in-one solution for you. So very interesting stuff on the managed print front. And I think my biggest takeaway is that you can reduce costs, but at the same time increasing your device output, your productivity, your security. Pretty cool stuff, definitely. And on the IT side, we're definitely doing the same thing, where we're doing more hardware as a service, and every 3 years things get replaced. So in either of these circumstances, feel free to reach out. Thanks, Steve, for the information, and thanks everybody for just hanging out with us today. Watch out for our information for webinars coming up in the months ahead. We also want to let you know that we're doing a security training on site here at TAZ Networks in October. And so if you're interested in that, you can reach out to myself or Heather, and you'll be getting more information on that as well as we go along in the days and weeks ahead. But definitely from the cybersecurity front, we want to keep everybody up to date and trained. And so if you want to come yourself or with others, send others, definitely we more than welcome that, because we feel that more that are trained, it'd definitely be better for all. So have a great day, and thanks for joining us today.